Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first of what we are hoping will become a series of connection points with the AILA community about just what's going on in immigration law today. During this time when it's so difficult for us to gather in person, I hope that these videos will help bring us together at least a little bit virtually until it's safe for us all to be together again in person. So I thought that I would just kick off this series reflecting a little bit about this really surreal legal landscape that we find ourselves in and what it's like to be a practicing immigration attorney right now. I've been thinking lately that for all of the chaos and dysfunction of the Trump administration, at least there was never really a question about what he stood for. You knew he was very clear in his words and his actions from the day he began running for office until his very last days in the White House, that he was absolutely 100% opposed to immigration in any form and to promoting or protecting immigrants or having a fair and humane policy or, even just following the law. That was not his thing. And so when you went to work every day, you knew that you were going to battle. And boy, did we learn how to fight that battle in new and different ways. Many of us became litigators for the first time because suddenly, literally making a federal case out of an issue became the only way to get the government to do its job. Others of us began actively speaking to the media and telling our clients stories to shine a spotlight on all of the injustice that we were witnessing. Still others rushed to provide help to the victims of Trump's cruel policies, wherever that help was needed, whether that was at an airport or at the southern border. And some of us even ran for political office to try to make change happen in this environment. We reacted, we adapted, and we pushed ahead. We never stopped fighting. And now, here we are, on the other side of that 4-year nightmare for immigration lawyers and advocates everywhere, and our fear has been replaced with hope. The near certainty that tomorrow will be worse than today is supplanted by the great possibility that it will instead be better. And while on the one hand that feels amazing, on the other hand, I don't think I am the only one who wishes that things could be happening just a little bit more quickly. Trump was so swift and complete in his destruction of our clients' rights that I think that I, at least, sometimes forget that it is a lot easier to destroy something than it is to rebuild it, let alone to build back better, as this administration wants to do. So I feel like we've been waiting so long for change, and we have endured so much awfulness over the last 4 years that I just want it to be better right now. But, for all of my impatience, I also know logically that it will take time to undo all of the damage of the Trump years. So, as we boldly walk forward into the light that is this new day, what is it reasonable to expect can be done quickly? And what will we need to be more patient in waiting for? Well, I think we've already seen a dramatic change in the overall tone and posture of the administration toward immigration and the value that immigration brings to our country. We see this very deliberate rhetoric of welcoming and inclusiveness in the January executive orders that President Biden put out that describe immigrants as fueling our economy, creating jobs, not stealing them, contributing to our government, our arts, our culture. And all of those orders stress what he called the character of a nation of welcome and opportunity. And it's clear that President Biden is conveying to the country, and more importantly, probably to the world, that the United States recognizes the value and the worth of immigrants. And I gotta say that given the contrary messages of fear and division that our government blasted for 4 long years, the importance of just that change in rhetoric and tone alone really cannot be overstated. And we are also seeing more than just words. We're seeing some actual actions. The Biden administration's political appointments in the immigration space have all been consistent with this attitude. We've all seen smart, capable, and experienced people, many of whom AILA knows and has known for years and has good relationships with, who are committed to fair and humane administration and enforcement of our laws. And we're seeing some positive policy changes, like, and this is the one I'm most excited about, the death of the public charge rule. Yay! The revocation of Buy American, Hire American, that is huge, as well as the Muslim ban, the immigrant visa bans, those are both gone. The new administration is also prioritizing a systematic review and investigation of the prior administration's really very deliberate attempts, as we all know, to grind to a halt the legal immigration system in our country. So his prior orders have called for agency review of border processing policies and a really specific internal procedural and policy review of the impediments to legal immigration generally that the administration put in place, the prior administration put in place. And I welcome all of those developments, I really do. But I've also been disappointed. I've been disappointed at what has not been done. The president stopped short of reversing the non-immigrant travel ban. And not only that, he chose to make the non-immigrant exemption process even more difficult so that it's even less likely that foreign investors and other high-value employees of US companies are able to come to the United States and help jumpstart our economy and get us back on track. The administration has chosen to continue Trump's policy of using Title 42 to exclude asylum seekers. And he's closed the border to all except unaccompanied children. And I understand that the administration is doing its best to manage what is a very long-standing problem for which there are really no good short-term solutions. But it is still disappointing to see the way that this challenge seems to be bandied about for political sport by the parties rather than seriously addressed. I do trust that at least we now have an administration that wants to do the right thing. And I get that it will take time and space to deliver that solution, but it is really hard not to be impatient with so many people's lives in the balance. I'm also a little disappointed to see that the Biden administration has not yet revoked the healthcare proclamation. This is a really low-hanging fruit left over from the Trump administration. That proclamation affects approximately 375,000, mostly family-based immigrant visa applicants. Now, it was temporarily enjoined, thanks to litigation brought by AILA, but this is damage that would be very easily undone with the stroke of the president's pen. And it's baffling and disappointing to see that that has not happened. AILA will continue to fight that proclamation in court. So the president's failure to take action in those key areas, it really runs counter to all of that positive, welcoming, and inclusive rhetoric of the earlier executive orders. And it's also just bad policy. We in the immigration advocacy community have to continue to push for the change that our country needs. And we can't count on even this administration always delivering that change without being pushed. So it's reasonable to expect that some things would have been changed by now that haven't been. But what about the other types of bigger projects, the changes that need a longer glide path to actually implement? Well, among those, of course, are legislative change. The introduction of a comprehensive immigration bill confirmed that the new administration is making immigration a priority, and that's good to know. And it's also a good marker of Biden's broader policy goals in immigration and his aspirations for immigration reform. And of course, the passage of the Dream and Promise Act and the Foreign Workforce Modernization Bill through the House are very good signs that there is also some bipartisan support for immigration reform. But getting a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate is going to be a much taller order and less likely that that will happen. So likewise, while it is clear through his executive orders that President Biden is committed to re-examining and improving upon the previous flawed policies and the inefficient tactics of the Trump administration, it's unreasonable to expect that there will be a complete reversal of all 1,000 plus Trump immigration policy changes very quickly. Things like improving efficiency, reducing the backlogs, revoking all those ill-advised regulations, and also the type of culture shift among career agency personnel that is going to be needed to bring about that level of change. Those things are all going to take time. And neither should we expect that we're going to agree with all of what our new president is going to propose. And we can already see, for example, that President Biden is likely to retain some of Trump's anti-H-1B policies, having signaled his desire to push ahead with the H-1B lottery registration rule. Now, we all know the effect of that is going to be to shut out newly graduated foreign students from the H-1B category and effectively ensure that H-1B workers are paid more than their counterparts who are US workers, which makes no sense. The inevitable result of that is going to be that employers are going to offshore those jobs, and our economy is going to lose out. So that's not good policy, and it's not good for the economy. And we're going to have to be prepared to push back against that. And there may be other things as well that we're not going to like that are going to be proposed by the Biden administration, and we're going to have to push back. So in this climate of change and flux and fluidity and a little bit of uncertainty about what and when the Biden administration will accomplish its agenda, what can we expect of AILA in this new landscape? What are we going to be doing? Well, we're going to be doing what we've always done. We are going to be advocating for fair and reasonable immigration law and policy. We're going to be advancing the quality of immigration law and practice, and we are going to be enhancing the professional development of our members. Right now, that means pushing for our policy priorities. Those are outlined in the set of recommendations for the future of immigration that we have made. If you haven't yet read that document, it is called A Vision for America as a Welcoming Nation, and I encourage you to check it out on AILA.org. In that document, we outline our goals for improving fairness, efficiency, and accountability to the immigration courts, reforming our employment and family-based immigration systems, restoring asylum law, and ensuring fair and humane treatment of people at the border, setting a smart enforcement policy, and ending inhumane detention. And we will continue to publish and promote policy briefs that further explain and illuminate these policy goals, and that also provide real solutions for those policy problems. Recently, we've published 2 briefs, one on steps that the administration should take to improve efficiency at USCIS, and another on reducing and phasing out immigrant detention. These are key policy documents that our team has put together, and they will inform and support our engagement with members of Congress, with our sister organizations that we partner with as we continue to push for regulatory, legislative, and executive change as quickly as possible in this whole host of areas. We're also working to build back better our liaison capacity. Now, keep in mind, we have always maintained, even throughout the Trump administration, unwavering and productive relationships with a number of agencies, including the State Department, the Department of Labor, CBP, and ICE. And now we have renewed opportunities of engagement with USCIS. And while we're still waiting for key positions to be congressionally confirmed within each of those immigration-related agencies, we are continuing to deepen our engagement with career staff with whom we've always had relationships. It's also very important for you to know that the change in the administration does not at all mean we are taking our foot off the gas with regard to our litigation efforts. Litigation remains a complement to our government liaison work. And we will continue to push forward with litigation as a tool for change in areas like the visa bans, the healthcare proclamation, as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Labor's prevailing wage rule, and most recently, the EAD processing delays for H-4 and L-2 applicants. So we will continue to deploy litigation strategically as necessary in order to jumpstart change and to address issues in front of federal courts that we can't get remedied through liaison activity. And of course, while we are pushing for these changes to the immigration system, we will also continue to prepare you for the practice-focused realities of our times and what's next. So if you haven't viewed the practice and professionalism resources that are available on the AILA website lately, I'd suggest you check them out. There's lots of tools, tips, and updates there that are available to you under the Law Practice tab on the website. Another committee that I'm really excited about this year is the AILA Client Resources Committee. It's new this year, and it is consistently producing timely client-facing materials that you can adapt and then share with your clients about breaking news in immigration. So most recently, for example, the committee published to the website client flyers answering questions about TPS and DACA. There's also a flyer explaining for your clients the differences between a statute, a regulation, and a tweet, and what the legal effects are of those things, and basically helping clients to understand what's important, what matters, what constitutes a legal change, and what does not. There's also a flyer for foreign students covering COVID-19 related issues, and a flyer urging vigilance against notarios who are looking to take advantage of this new and changing climate to disadvantage immigrants. So that's just a taste of what AILA is doing for you. But what can you do for AILA? How can you help us to reverse the damage of the last 4 years and push for change that we all want to see for our clients and for our practices? Well, here are two main things that you can do to get involved. First, tell your client stories wherever you can, on social media, to the printed press, in a letter to an editor or an op-ed. Click on Working with Your Local Media under the Advocacy and Media tab on the AILA website to get more information. Our communications team would love to help you get your point of view out there to the world so that your clients' stories can be told. Also, please do your best to respond when AILA puts out calls for examples for adjudications trends, or just report on your own a problematic trend that you are noticing in your practice to the relevant AILA committee through AILA.org. Information is power, and the more data that we are able to gather about what is happening, the more convincingly and thoroughly we can make the case for change. The 15,000 of us united are what's going to get these things done. But most of all, I guess I just want to say, hang in there. Change is coming. Joe Biden is in many ways a vaccine for the toxic virus that was the Trump administration. But, just like with COVID-19, it's going to be a while before we can all be fully vaccinated. And the damage of the last 4 years cannot be undone overnight. It's going to take time, and it's going to take patience. And as I said, we're not always going to be happy with the pace of change, or even always with the substance of the change. As with every administration, this one is not always going to do what we think is in the best interest of immigration law and policy. There will be trade-offs, and there will be compromises, and there'll be poison pills, because that's politics. And there always are those compromises and trade-offs and poison pills with a political issue like immigration. But at least we now know that there is the hope and the promise of change, good change. And that is huge. And I'm going to tell you what else gives me hope. All of you. Your camaraderie, your commiseration, your dedication, and your sheer grit to just dig in and fight back during the darkness of the last 4 years. You, each one of you, you are AILA. And you have given me strength to keep going and to keep pushing through to the other side. And if these past 4 years have taught me nothing else, it is how solidly I know that I can count on this community to get us through the toughest times, and how sure I am that there is nothing we cannot face, no barrier we cannot overcome if we do it together.